another episode of the 2KU Weekly Podcast. Gonna be a little bit of a shorter episode. Frankly, I just got off of work and I'm a little drained, so it's gonna be a bit low energy today. But I'm Antoine Joy 101, joined alongside Danny V, and hopefully we'll be joined by Pig Bear as well later on in the show. But if you remember last night, or Saturday, excuse me, we had a bet going on the over/under on how many times they would cut to touchdown Jesus during the game. The over/under was 15. We set that comfortably. We beat that comfortably. It was 18, and as such, Notre Dame will be playing in this game. And there he is, the man of the hour. They'll be taking on College of Faith, which, for those of you who don't know, was a real school, or is a real school. I don't know the actual status of them now.
They're defunct.
Very
They're defunct high school.
Very strange case. I highly recommend watching the Empire video about Bishop Sycamore, not Bishop Sycamore, College of Faith. You won't find out more. It's a very similar story to Bishop Sycamore, if you remember that. Anyway, aside from that, how are you doing, Danny?
I'm doing okay. Just got back home.
All right. I just realized that Notre Dame's shirt and pants aren't matching.
Yeah, they don't have blue pants, unfortunately, so close enough.
I know it's going to bother some of our audience, but we're going to work regardless. Moving on to our top stories of this week. We had 2 games of the week, which you saw on stream, hopefully. One ended up an all-time classic as Alabama comes up with a 30-27 overtime win after being down by 10 at one point. Meanwhile, Texas came to South Bend here and absolutely shut down the 10th-ranked Irish. Also, meanwhile, LSU adds a ranked win to its resume. They put 70 on Nichols last week, and they go beat Texas A&M in Death Valley this week to get to 2-0. Clemson, number 4 in the country, had a scare against the Pitt Panthers. They ended up winning in overtime. And how about FAU doing it a second time? They upset our top 16. They upset a top 15 Tulane last week, and they do it against UCF this week. We'll talk more about that in a moment. But let's get back to our games of the week, starting with that clash in South Bend. The Texas Longhorns and the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, number 11 and number 10 respectively. We were expecting an all-timer. We got, admittedly, a little bit of a snoozer, but not in the way we expect. Texas was the one who dominated in this game, as we have a safety already. I've never seen that happen. I've never seen a safety happen, actually, in this game. But distracting from the point, Notre Dame got walloped 31-10, and that was mainly in part thanks to Texas's defense absolutely stopping any chance that they had at coming back. Not a factor in this game, though. They're absolutely dominating so far, up 8-0. But while Notre Dame's offense floundered, Texas's thrived, namely on the running game thanks to Joe Rivera. He was one of the 2 transfers that Texas got in the transfer portal, and both of them balled out. Rivera had solid rushing numbers. Meanwhile, quarterback David Richardson threw the ball for quite some yards. 31-10 the final again from South Bend. Texas 2-0. They get Nebraska next week, a team who's been hovering under the top 25 for the last few weeks. Notre Dame, meanwhile, the Fighting Irish, they take on Purdue in West Lafayette in a rivalry game we'll mention at the end of the show. Your thoughts on this matchup, Danny?
Yeah, it was a bit of a snoozer at the end. It was much more entertaining in the beginning. But definitely Notre Dame's win streak comes to an end, and Texas, they're riding high. Are they back?
That'll be told in due time. I'm really excited about that Nebraska matchup coming up. I think it's going to be a marquee moment for the Big 10 or Big 12 on how how that's going to turn out this year. Is they're about to get another safety here if they're not careful. Meanwhile, what I would probably describe as the real game of the week, Ohio State, number 3 in the country, heading to Tuscaloosa to take on the Tide, and really it was a back and forth fight. Ohio State on the back of Derek Compton, solid rushing totals all day. They got out to a 24-14 lead, but Austin Trooper, true to his name, never gave up on this game. Led a rally from down 24-14 to tie the game at 27. Entering overtime, they kick a field goal, take the lead. Meanwhile, Jamie Bennett, who hadn't missed all night, had a 22-yard field goal, which I mentioned in the broadcast. That field goal is not easy, especially from the left hash. There's another safety. And he whiffed it. He missed a 22-yarder, and Alabama can now boast about a top 5 win, 30-27, the final in overtime from Brian Denny. Danny?
Yeah, this game was so fun to watch. It was a back and forth conflict. It was a big time opportunity, and we were preparing to go to second overtime, but Alabama came out on top with
Oh
a
my
missed field
goodness.
goal.
Well, this is going to get bad. We don't have a lot to show this game, this stream, so I don't know if we're going to finish this game, but maybe we will just for sick laughs, just to see how bad it truly gets. We're going to start our main weekday slate, or our main weekend slate with a game on Friday. I was not there for it, but Danny, if you may, take it away on Boise State Cincy.
Yeah, Cincinnati, one of the top ranked teams in the nation, came in at number 7, went to number 18 Boise State on the Smurf turf. Not an easy place to play, and Boise State definitely came out to prove it. That while, let me just grab my notes. Well, Cincinnati had more total offense and more plays. Boise State had more yards per play. They definitely had more turnovers. That was the big key in this game. Boise State came out with getting 3 turnovers.
Look out.
Cincinnati only had 1. So Boise State really took advantage of all those turnovers, definitely put into their advantage. And it was a little bit of a Cincy game at the start, but then Boise State came back from behind, especially within the second half, where in the third quarter they scored 10-0. So definitely a great matchup between these guys, and Boise State might be looking like a little contender in the Pac-12. Sorry,
First season in the Pac-12 this year. And with how dominant the Pac-12 has been lately, seeing a Mountain West team come out of nowhere and take the conference seems like a bit of a shocker, but look what happened last year. Utah won the conference. To the Saturday slate. You were here for this one as well, Texas A&M LSU.
Yeah, this one was a rivalry game, of course. It was a big-time competition between the two. Texas A&M coming off that heartbreaking loss to Louisville. LSU having, of course, that easy win against Nichols, and LSU came out to play. LSU competed very well, and in the third quarter, they were leading, I believe it was 21-7. Texas A&M almost pulled off a little bit of a comeback right there, but LSU scored a final few touchdowns, and Texas A&M wasn't able to get that on 4th down. So LSU came out 2-0 with another win on their belt, and Texas A&M another devastating loss.
They're gonna fall to 0-2. LSU, they have a case in the SEC. I was saying so for a while. What is happening here? Oh my goodness.
Kick 6.
For those who are listening, College of Faith just punted the ball all of 10 yards. Scooped up by Notre Dame safety, who jogs into the end zone for a touchdown. The punt is at their own 10, by the way. Oh, what a good laugh. Meanwhile, a team who nearly had the joke on them was Clemson, number 4 in the country. They head to Heinz Field. I know it's Acrisure Stadium, but it will always be Heinz Field to me. Take on the Pitt Panthers. By the way, Danny, pro tip: Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania has an H in it.
Ah,
Pittsburgh with no H is Kansas. That's where those gorillas are that we like so much in this channel. I don't know how much they know about the lore behind Pittsburgh State, actually. That's a story for another day. And that's another safety almost. Meanwhile, getting back to the point, Clemson rode into Pittsburgh as number 4 in the country. Their highest ranking in pretty much, at least since we started 2KU. I'd have to go back in the archives to tell you exactly the last time they were ranked this high. However, the Clemson Tigers had a scare. They were down for most of this game, but they rallied, scoring 14 points to end the quarter, and they made it to overtime. They would win 41-34 over the Pittsburgh Panthers. Clemson now 2-0. Pitt falling to 0-2, but I don't think they should hold their heads that low for their performance so far. Danny, your thoughts?
yeah, Clemson has never had an easy time against Pitt.
Oh, there it goes.
So it's another safety right there for Notre Dame.
27-0.
Yeah, Clemson, they came in with high hopes. Got a little bit bashed by Pitt. Luckily, they have a couple of weeks to recover, especially before their next big game, which is a very, very big game, in fact.
Their next game is against the Citadel. All right. Speaking of big games. Oh, sorry about that. Speaking of big games, how about Florida Atlantic doing it again? UCF has been one of the most dominant teams at home over the past few years. I believe they've lost twice at home since 2022. Touchdown. That was against Cincinnati back in 2023. And I think they had one home loss last season. I want to say it was to Dave Show.
Cincinnati last season and another team. And Dave Show.
UCF's been the most dominant team at home. And here comes little Florida Atlantic, who had a win against Tulane already under their belts in Boca. That probably was chalked up to, this is a strong FAU team who's expected to win the Sun Belt this year. It was chalked up to a pretty notable upset. Maybe we'll see some grumblings. Now that they've done it again to number 15 UCF, who they beat in overtime 23-20 on a walk-off field goal, now questions are starting to be arisen. How good is this FAU team really, Danny?
Yeah, this game hurts me on a spiritual level and maybe physically. That for Atlantic, they came in. How did they do last season? If you want to remind us.
I don't have the record on me. I know for a fact they made a bowl.
Yeah. I think they might have BCS aspirations this year with how impressive they are. Wins against SEC champion Tulane and a very good UCF. Might be very good.
And that was the toughest stretch of their schedule. Being a Sun Belt team, Sun Belt not known for being easy for smaller schools, but right now it looks like App State's on the downturn. It looks like Coastal's on the downturn. Let me go check the schedule here. By the way, while I'm waiting to pull that up, UCF, they play East Carolina next week. That might be a trap game for the Knights. ECU is 2-0 with 2 solid wins under their belt against Coastal and NC State. And it looks like I feel like the power dynamic in the Big East South is shifting now. I feel like the Florida schools aren't going to have as much of a hold on it as they were expected to. I think Louisville and Cincinnati are kind of where you're looking for. Louisville dominated FCS Hampton last week, or on Saturday. Hang on, let's see if lightning strikes twice here. Okay, not quite.
No.
They get 20 yards on that punt, though. That's better than last time. But UCF's next games are East Carolina, at Dave Show, at Memphis, at Cincinnati. That 4-game stretch is a nightmare touchdown Notre Dame. This is a Memphis team who gave Arkansas all they can handle. Well, in a hard-fought loss. This is a Cincy team who almost had a perfect season last year after lose, though they did lose their last two. And also a Cincy team who will be resting. They have a bye the week before they play UCF in Nippert Stadium. And of course, you have Dave's show, who you never know. Remember, Dave's show beat UCF in Orlando last season. That might be a brutal stretch this season. And also note that they play Louisville, who I expect to win the division at this point, on the road. This might be a tough year for the Knights, but I expect them to keep competitive. But what we're looking for, though, is Florida Atlantic's schedule. And pulling that up, they play Western Carolina next week. They have a bye. They play Georgia State at ULM, at Coastal. They play South Alabama at home before a bye, and then a home game against Troy. They head on the road to Army and Georgia Southern. They have App at home, and they play FIU on the road. That's a winnable schedule. I think the toughest games beyond the first two that they've played now are probably at Coastal and at Army. I was not very confident in what App State showed against Western and in their loss to Mississippi State. I feel like that App team could end up exposed by the end of the year. Shouts to Pig Bear, though. I think Coastal is going to have a tough time. They also have to play... They just lost to ECU. They play Liberty on the road before they head to FAU. That might rattle them. Georgia Southern already started out the season 0-2 with losses to Georgia Southern, or Southern Miss and Fresno so far. I think FAU right now may be a runaway favorite for the East. The real question mark is, can they beat Army? Can they beat Coastal in Conway? What are your thoughts about that?
Another safety. Another safety for Notre Dame. So, back on another two. FAU, they are definitely the favorites at this point to win the division. If they don't, that's going to be a disappointment. I would also take a look at South Alabama's schedule, or South Alabama, because they're currently still undefeated at this point.
USA got the upset win against Ole Miss. Bowling Green, they beat. They can very well beat Middle Tennessee and Nichols. That matchup against FAU might be interesting.
That's a mistake.
Oh, who did they play?
They played Winston-Salem.
Oh, Winston-Salem. They got a win against an FCS Winston-Salem.
Mistake.
Oh, there's another touchdown, Notre Dame. Touchdown? Goodness, it's 50-0, and we haven't even exited the first quarter. Stay tuned. How bad does this truly get? We're stalling for time here, just so we can see it. I think you get a bonus segment just so we can waste time. BCS Busters early on. I think FAU is a prime candidate. I think Texas State is another prime candidate. They have a top 15 win with their win over Kansas State. They have a pretty easy schedule moving forward. They play Southern Miss at home. They play UTSA on the road. Those are the real challenges right now. Maybe a Western Kentucky throws a wrench in that. But I could very well see the Bobcats going unbeaten this point forward. Did UTSA win their first two?
They're 1-1. They beat Air Force.
They beat Air Force, lost to North Texas on the road. I don't see UTSA necessarily competing for a BCS berth, but they could very well win the division. That matchup in San Antonio might be dangerous, though. UTSA has tough games against Army and at Texas coming up. Southern Miss beat Ole Miss, right?
Yes.
Southern Miss is undefeated.
No, Ole Miss beat Southern Miss.
Okay. Southern Miss is a one-loss team. UAB's undefeated.
Yes.
But UAB has tough games against UTSA and a road matchup against Liberty. I don't know if I actually mentioned it, but UAB was... What was that?
Marshall's still undefeated.
Marshall's undefeated. They head to Wisconsin, though, next week. So that's probably not going to stay the same. Liberty has Virginia Tech, and they lost to New Mexico State in Las Cruces last week. We could obviously talk about the Mountain West for a BCS Buster. The prime candidates though are probably out. Uh, Hawaii has a loss to Kansas to start the year. New Mexico State is unbeaten, but they do have tough games against Nevada, UNLV, a trap game against Idaho potentially. San Jose State, which actually we can transition to because San Jose State's the next team on this list. They were number 19 in the country. They lost to Stanford. The Cardinal bouncing back after their loss to Michigan, get the win at home in Palo Alto, 37-23. That is something that the Cardinal desperately needed to right the ship. I like that win for Stanford. I think that's going to be a. We'll come back to the BCS busting thing in a second, but I think Stanford's a better team than people give credit for. Danny.
Yeah, that Stanford. They're not the same
Uh
Stanford
oh.
team as before.
Oh no! Not again!
There's another.
Goodness gracious. Yeah, you were saying?
Yeah, that. And that, well, this is not the same Stanford team as before who competed for national championships and was at a very high level. Stanford still has a good chance of making a little bit of shakeup for them.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, their schedules are tougher going on, but they still have a lot to prove and a lot to show that they're still a competitor.
Stanford's next two games. Stanford gets a bye next week. They have games against UCLA and at USC coming up. They also have a potential tough road matchup against Oregon State and a home matchup to end the season against Notre Dame. Those are some very scary games to look out for. San Jose State, as we go back to talking about the Mountain West, they play Air Force next week. They have a matchup against Nevada, and they end the season at Hawaii. They avoid New Mexico State though, which is probably good if you're trying to win out the rest of the year. New Mexico State, meanwhile, I already mentioned their games. I think Nevada could be an interesting team to see come into the conversation for a BCS buster. They got 2 wins against UC Davis and a non-power or a newly power again SMU, formerly of the Pac-12, now Big 12. They have Illinois State on the road. They play CSU Fullerton at home before they enter their conference schedule with a really tough matchup against New Mexico State and Las Cruces. But beyond that, I think they can win out. I think they beat Air Force at home. I think they beat Cullen Payton. I think they beat Eastern Washington. It'll be an interesting matchup against San Jose State in Week 11, circled out on the calendars, as well as Hawaii on Friday in Week 13. Tragically, no BCS run for our buddies in Idaho. They start out 0-2, losses to Boise and Oregon State. And a team I was expecting to make the run, UNLV, did not start the season great. I believe UNLV's 0-2. Oh my goodness, his third time's the charm. Third time is the charm. This is getting ridiculous. I say. Who else could potentially be a BCS buster? Do we have any on the radar?
We have 2 surprising undefeated teams in the Mountain West. Cullen Payne and Eastern Washington are still undefeated.
That's a good thing to hear for either program. Eastern Washington, they still have to vote on if they're staying FBS. Maybe now that they have some recent success, maybe that will add to their total. They play UC Davis and at Washington to end their slate. They were off this week. Their first conference game is at rival Cullen Payton.
William and Mary, they're 3-0 into the season.
William Mary is 3-0. I think ultimately that's going to be a tough case of resume. And also you play Wisconsin in week 4, so that's going to be brutal. In
another case,
in Camp Randall.
West Texas A&M is 3-0 as well.
Mm-hmm. The benefits of playing in week 0 at this point. West Texas has wins against Houston Christian and East Texas A&M. They play UL Monroe as well. They play Tarleton on the road, which might be an interesting game. This is a different Tarleton team from what we've heard. And I feel like there's more buzz about Tarleton potentially being a dark horse now than there was even 2 months ago.
Carlton's still undefeated.
Tarleton's undefeated as well. That's gonna be a very interesting matchup to see. It feels like most people are convinced that Louisiana Tech is locking their place in the conference championship in the WAC this season. But that second spot feels very up for grabs. North Texas, Hardin-Simmons, West Texas, Tarleton, Pacific have all seemed to make cases for it. Watch the WAC race. It's going to be fun. Meanwhile, let's talk about some more matchups here. Penn State, number 17 in the country. They lost last week to Washington in Happy Valley. The luck doesn't get much better for them. They head on the road to Syracuse and lose in the JMA Wireless Dome 34-29 to the Cuse Orange, who get their first win of the season. Your thoughts on this matchup, Danny? Look at look at how they run. This is funny. This is a good game. Anyway, Penn State, Syracuse.
Yeah, man. For Penn State,
No
after your
way.
next,
Oh man, we're trying our best here, guys.
this game's great.
Yeah. Penn State.
Yeah, so what's the over under this game?
I think we can get to 200.
Here comes the big challenge. Does College of Faith get to the 50-yard line?
Ooh, that's gonna be tough. I think they do.
I think no.
All right.
I'm gonna say no.
All right. It's on. It's on like Penn State, Syracuse. Do we have any thoughts on this game, or do we move on?
Yeah, for Penn State, that you start 0-2, your next two seem pretty easy, but afterward, how are you gonna manage your schedule? Because you got the Wisconsin, Illinois, Ohio, go to Ohio State, go to Indiana, host Michigan State. You know, these teams are ranked. So Penn State's got a super tough schedule ahead after once again the conference play.
This feels
for
like
Syracuse.
Sorry.
Bounce back play at least, but still not gonna be easy for them.
Going back to Cuse. Cuse gets UConn on Friday, week 4. They play a road game against Pitt, who gave a top 4 Clemson team all they can handle. They have a road game against Rutgers, who's expected to be one of the best teams in their division. Louisville at home, UCF on the road, Temple at home, who won the conference last season. A bit of a breather against Villanova in Philadelphia. They head on the road to West Virginia. They host Georgetown. They head to Boston College. That Boston College game is very much winnable, seeing how they've been kind of back and forth performing. They beat Army, but they have losses to Notre Dame and BYU. I think Syracuse does win this game. But meanwhile, for Penn State, it's not going to be easy, as you mentioned. I think they win out, get to 2-2, but then you have Wisconsin, who I don't think they beat. I think they lose in Columbus. They lose to Michigan, and they lose to Michigan State. That's a ceiling of 6 wins. Like, maybe you can flip one. I could see them upsetting Michigan State or Wisconsin. But you're probably not beating Michigan. You're probably not beating Ohio State. You may struggle against Indiana, too. Keep in mind, the Hoosiers love pulling upsets like this. Don't write them out just yet. But yeah, moving on. 32-29, the score from Auburn. The Auburn Tigers get their first win of the year after their loss to Georgia Tech last week. They beat UCLA 32-29. The UCLA Bruins fall to 0-2. Auburn is now at 1-1. The Tigers' next game, their next game up, they play North Alabama at home. UCLA. They head back home to play Minnesota. Should be winnable games for both teams. What does this game tell you about either of these teams, Danny?
Yeah, for Auburn, it does show a competitiveness because it's always a joke. Auburn's going to Auburn. The team that beats Auburn the most is Auburn. So when they get this win against UCLA, is a good sign for their program at least. Now,
Positive yardage. Sorry.
yeah. So, but Auburn needs as many wins as they can because their schedule afterward is like really tough. So they need any kind of break they can.
Yeah, they got put in a
For
division with
UCLA,
Alabama, Florida, Georgia, and Tennessee. There's no longer a Big Ten West to cushion them, or SEC West rather.
for UCLA, it's also very tough as well because after Minnesota, you got several big games back to back to back to back to back throughout the season.
At
Even some of
Stanford,
those other games that
Utah,
aren't as
at
big.
Arizona, a bye week, then at Oregon. You host Washington, you head to Boise, you host Fresno, and then you're at USC.
Yeah, so this schedule's not easy for UCLA. So
You could have
they
returned
need to
that.
find somebody to ride the field, or else they might be in a tough spot.
Hmm. Moving on. Staying in the Pac 12, actually, touchdown Notre Dame. USC heads to Pullman and gets a hard fought win over the Cougars. USC wins 34-20. They are now 2-0, number 13 in the country right now, and they notched their first Pac 12 win. Washington State, meanwhile, they're 0-2, but it's a bit of a deceptive 0-2. They had a really tough start of the schedule, and it does not get easier. Their losses are to Kansas and USC. They play Oregon State next week. And you also have Oregon and at Stanford, and of course the Apple Cup against Washington. Wazoo's going to have one hell of a time trying to dig themselves out of this hole. Danny?
Yeah, tough 0-2 start. Next is the rivalry for the Northwest Championship. That rivalry they for Northwestern schools have because Idaho a rival. Your only real break is your FCS team, CSU Northridge. I believe that's what it's Northridge, right?
Yeah, Cal State Northridge.
Yeah, that that's your really only big break, and that's right before Oregon. So they need like game to use it for practice of any way they can. So, but who knows? Washington State always knows to deceive a team and can. Whoa,
A first down.
let's go.
There's hope yet to cross the 50-yard
So,
line.
so Washington State they have known to cause a couple upsets here and there. Maybe they might have one this season coming up.
Blocking. Moving on now. The Florida Gators. They had a win last week. I forget who it was against, but now they welcome Dave Show University Truckers, who get into town. And every single game this year Dave Show has played has been decided by 7 points, and this one is the same, though not in a result that they would have favored. 17-10 Florida escapes with a win. The Gators are now 2-0. Dave Show falls to 1-2 to start the year. The Florida Gators' next game is at Arizona State. Then they head on the road to Tennessee. That's how we're going to see how good this Florida team truly is. Meanwhile, Dave Show, they have a bye before their Friday matchup at home against UCF. Oh, that was it. They almost did it. This is totally possible, though, I believe. Meanwhile, back to Florida State Dave or Florida Dave Show. What do you think?
Yeah, Florida's first win was against Colorado, so that was a big win. And then Dave Show, big win as well. They play in a tough SEC East in their new
Oh my
schedule.
goodness.
Another one.
Kickoff team's getting some work here. We got to see the stat line at the end of this.
So, oh yeah, that Florida they have a pretty tough schedule with a lot of rivals coming up. Including, they're the only, I think they're one of the few teams that plays an entire Power Five schedule. So good luck Gators, but I believe in you.
I believe in
And
the
for Dave
Gators.
Show, another close loss. Like, how many more close losses can you get, Dave? How many more close losses?
Probably not more coming up. They have UCF,
Like,
Georgia Tech, and Virginia Tech. Thankfully, all at home, but that's a tough game. That's a tough stretch to play for anybody. They end the season with Florida State and at Miami too, and they're just gonna kneel it to end the first half. I was about to see how they gave up a safety on their QB kneel.
okay, here comes the halftime
85
update. Let's
nothing
see
at
this.
halftime. 150 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns on 5 attempts. That's crazy. Let's keep go. Let's do some rapid fire games here. Cyhawk Trophy 2017. Iowa beats Iowa State to improve to 1-1. Iowa lost to Western Michigan but beat Iowa State. ISU, meanwhile, they won against Northern Iowa and lost to Iowa. What do you have to make of either of these teams?
Yeah, Cyhawk game is of course a classic game, a great rivalry, low scoring. This one was a bit higher scoring than previous years, so offense? Question mark.
Maybe. Meanwhile, Black Diamond Trophy, West Virginia gets a 28-15 win over a Virginia Tech team I mentioned looked sloppy. I thought this team was not going to do well, and I was proven right, and they're going to take this kickoff all the way. I mean, technically, they crossed the 50-yard line with the kickoff team.
I guess.
Some way, somehow, they found out a way to do it. Regardless, I'll actually do our games. And since we don't have any major topics to talk about aside from the one we already did, we can talk about our top 25 for week 3. How much can I get through before Notre Dame scores 100 points on this team? We're going to get things started with our number 1 and number 2, which are unchanged from last week. Michigan and Oregon got wins against Brown and Baylor, respectively. Number 3 is Clemson, who jumps up 1 spot from last week with their win against Pittsburgh. They get the Citadel next week. Number 4, up 2 from last week, is Georgia Tech. They beat an Ivy League school in Dartmouth, which, a stat line I haven't mentioned yet, it's been 2 weeks and an Ivy League team has still not won a game. The entire conference is 0-2. Hopefully someone can break that skid soon.
0-3 for Brown.
0-3 for Brown. Number 5, up 4 spots. The biggest riser of this week is Alabama, who, with their win against Ohio State at home, have put themselves in prime position. However, to cement their place as a true national contender, they'll have to beat number 6, who fell 1 spot last week after their close loss to Tulsa, Oklahoma State. Now sitting at 6, they play the Crimson Tide in Stillwater. Number 7, Ohio State fell 4 spots after their loss to Bama. They get a tune-up game against Rhode Island next week. Unchanged from last week's position, Utah. They got a win against Utah Tech. They are off this week. Number 9, Texas. Up 2 from last week with their win over Notre Dame. They're into the top 10 as they'll face Nebraska in Austin. Dropping 3 spots with their loss to Boise. Number 10, Cincinnati. They get Ohio School in Youngstown, hopefully, to get themselves righted again. LSU is up 3 from last week. They're number 11 now with their win over Texas A&M. They head to Williams-Brice in Columbia to take on South Carolina next week. Down 2-12 from last week is Notre Dame. Their loss to Texas definitely dented their reputation. They're down to 1-2 overall. They get Purdue in the battle for the Shillelagh Trophy in West Lafayette. USC got a win against Wazoo on the road. They host Iowa as number 13 in the country. Number 14 jumping a few spots is Boise with their win over Cincinnati in Albertsons. They host Georgia Southern coming up this week. Tulane, unchanged from last week. They're number 15. They beat Harvard at home. They'll take on Iowa State in Ames next week. As there's another touchdown Notre Dame. We're almost to the point where they beat that. Kansas State fell 4 spots this week after not falling that much last week. They did get a win this week over Arizona in Tucson. They get Colorado College of the FCS next week. Hopefully, it goes smoother than their real life matchup against FCS North Dakota. UCF drops 2 spots from last week after their loss to FAU. They get East Carolina at home coming up. Oklahoma up 3 to number 18. They beat Colorado State to improve to 2-0. They have a ranked win on their resume. Can they beat a conference champion last year in Temple? Up 3 to 19 is Washington. They beat UNLV at home last week. They have a bye this week. Our first team new to the top 25 this week, all the way up to 20, is FAU, tying their highest ranking in history. They beat UCF on the road last week. They get Western Carolina at home this week. That should be a game that the Owls can win in order to improve to 3-0. Michigan State, they got a win over Maryland on Friday night. They're 2-0. They take on Western Michigan at home. This is a Western Michigan team who beat Iowa, so be careful, Sparty. Our second new team to the top 25 is Kansas. That extra win will help. They beat Hawaii, they beat Washington State, and now they get a win at Louisiana Tech, a team who gave Texas all they could handle. They have a bye this week to recharge for a later matchup against Texas. Texas A&M, they took on LSU and lost on the road. They are now 0-2. They fell 3 spots from last week. They'll take on Abilene Christian to hopefully get a much-needed victory. Georgia jumps up 1 spot from last week after their loss last Saturday. They get a ranked win against number 24 Florida State. They are now number 24. They get Vanderbilt at home. Meanwhile, we wrap out the top 25. We were scared that for the first time in our 2K Stream history, we would have a week without a Mountain West team. Though San Jose State will be number 25. They're our biggest faller, though, from 19 to 25. They lost to Stanford. They get Air Force next week. Other teams receiving mentions in the votes include Louisville, Nebraska, Florida State, Penn State, Wisconsin, Hawaii, Oregon State, Auburn, Texas State, William & Mary, Rice, West Texas A&M, and Tennessee. We have 2 teams dropping out of the top 25, Florida State and Penn State. Your thoughts on this top 25, Danny?
Yeah, a lot of surprises, a lot of ups and downs, especially for some of these teams. Welcome to the top 25, FU Kansas. I feel like Nebraska's still being disrespected by being left out, but same thing with Louisville and Wisconsin, maybe. But
I've had
great matchups, great teams here, so definitely I think.
flag on the play. An offsides penalty on College of Faith. I've had Nebraska and Louisville in my top 25 for the past 2 weeks, and I don't know how they're still out of the top 25, especially with Texas A&M's loss last week. As there it is, we've broken 100.
I also have Nebraska in my top 25. There's one person who doesn't have a man.
And coincidentally, this person who's not here, and a person who isn't here to discuss our games of the week this week. We have a couple games to talk about.
Right.
We're going to start on Thursday, September 11th, Patriots Day. Sorry about that. A matchup between Connecticut and Wake Forest. UConn 2-0 to start the year. Their best start to the season since their 12-1 or their 13-1 campaign in 2022. They head to reigning ACC Atlantic champs Wake Forest. Wake 3.5-point favorites at home. I like the Huskies though in an upset. UConn is proving a lot more competent than I was expecting them to be in the Big East this season. Danny?
Yeah, UConn, they're definitely a lot better than they were last season. Last season, their season was disastrous to say the least. And they have a big game on ESPN against Wake Forest on Thursday Night Football. Oh man, that's so amazing. Certainly better than.
Imagine football on a Thursday.
Yeah, so give me the Huskies to win this game.
I don't know if we're allowed to play that sound effect. It might be copyrighted, but regardless. Yeah, but Scooby-Doo, as I call it. moving to our Saturday slate, I didn't really have many games to mention on Friday, though keep an eye out for William & Mary. They play on Friday night. Trying to become the first team in the nation to go 4-0. On September 13th, Saturday, I put these in order more so of significance than actual occurrence. We have Nebraska and Texas in Austin. This is a matchup I'm super excited about. Number 9 Texas hosting a Nebraska team who probably should be ranked at this point with how they've won dominantly their past few weeks. I think the reason they were left out of the top 25 this week was because they were on a bye. He did a spin move there. Look at that. How fun was that? Texas 6.5-point favorites at home. I think Nebraska plays their hearts out, but give me Texas to win. Danny?
Yeah, it's gonna be a nighttime game. Another note right here. A nighttime game for Texas in Austin. Big opponent, big rival. Nebraska coming in. Yeah, I think Texas is gonna win this game. Though if Nebraska gets it close, they might still be able to sneak in if teams above them lose. Maybe. Who knows?
All right, UCF number 17 heads back to the bounce house, having to lick their wounds after a tough performance and a tough loss to FAU. They host East Carolina, and this is an ECU team who's a lot more dangerous than you would expect. UCF 6.5-point favorites at home. Give me the upset. Give me ECU to make UCF. UCF has not lost 2 straight games since 2022. I think it happens on this Saturday. Danny?
UCF, I think they're going to come out angry with that loss, and I think they're going to come out with the message saying, we're still here to compete in the Big East. Give me the Knights to win this rivalry game close.
That might be one we have to play on stream. Temple, reigning Big East champs, they're 2-0 to start the year, though it may be against some weaker opponents than they played last season. There's another safety. Good Lord. Oh, no, he was inbounds. It might be another safety coming up. But Temple heads to Oklahoma to take on the number 18 Sooners. OU only has 6.5-point favorites. I think I like Oklahoma plus the points here, Danny.
Yeah, give me Oklahoma to win. Oklahoma has a offense that's firing on all cylinders. They had a big win against Georgia. I think they get another big win here against Temple.
Besides, there's the safety I called.
Safety.
Besides, Temple can only pull off ridiculous upsets in the Big East championship game. Meanwhile, rivalry game. Shillelagh Trophy from West Lafayette, Indiana. Purdue hosting number 12 Notre Dame. Notre Dame is 6.5-point favorite, though Purdue and no stranger to upsetting top squads. The first year we did the 2K Weekly podcast was 2022. They beat a top 10 Kansas State team that year. That was in the opening week. And this was not a Notre Dame team. And that was not against the team like this Notre Dame squad. Notre Dame demolished in Ireland a squad of similar talent to Purdue in Boston College. I think Notre Dame does get a comfortable win here on the road. Danny?
This game is always a good time rivalry. Really stopped them. And this game's always a big time rivalry in college football. Big game in Indiana. And they don't call them the spoiler makers for nothing. Give me Purdue in the upset.
Moving on to what would normally be an SEC clash, but South Carolina's still in the ACC. Who knows? That might change in the future. LSU, number 11 in the country, heading to Williams-Brice to take on South Carolina. LSU, 8.5-point favorites on the road. I like the Tigers to remain undefeated. Danny?
Yeah, that LSU, they're of course running high, they're running big. They might be a little bit over the head. South Carolina is always a place where an upset can happen. Give me LSU to win, though, close.
Iowa heads to the Coliseum to take on USC. The number 13 ranked Trojans are 10-point favorites in this one. I like USC to get win number 3. Danny?
Yeah, give me USC as well. The game is very late, so the Iowa players might be very tired. And of course, across the country, it's always going to be hard for a Big Ten team. Give me USC to win.
Meanwhile, the one team who beat Iowa earlier this year was Western Michigan. They're 2-0. They head to East Lansing to take on Michigan State. Number 21 in the country, also 2-0. I think Sparty favored by 10.5. The line's going to be bit lower than that. I think it's going to be closer. Give me Michigan State, though, to win. Danny?
Michigan State to win as well. Western Michigan, I think, can start off early hot, but I think Michigan State closes off with a big win.
How about the Bronze Boot being revived as an early season rivalry this year as Wyoming heads to Fort Collins to take on Colorado State? The Cowboys and Rams are both 1-1, and I believe they're both coming off losses this week. I like Wyoming as a potential dark horse in the Mountain West.
Wyoming to Texas Tech, Colorado State to Oklahoma.
Yeah, both Big 12 schools. I like Wyoming as a dark horse in the Mountain West. I think the Cowboys get it done here. Danny?
Yeah, this game is going to be fun. It's always good to see these rivalries continue on. I'm going to take Colorado State to win this game. It's, of course, going to be tough to compete, and, of course, great trophy. A major trophy.
One of the best in the West. Two teams who beat Dave's show this season face off as Florida at 2-0 takes on a 2-0 Arizona State in the desert. They changed the name of the stadium?
Yep.
Sacrilegious, absolutely. At Sun Devil Stadium in Tempe. Give me Arizona State to win in an upset, though.
Yeah, give me Arizona State to win as well. They're off hot, and they're also hosting the Gators. So that home field advantage is going to come in pretty nice.
Meanwhile, number 2 Oregon heads on the road to that beautiful Lakeside Stadium in Evanston, Illinois to take on Northwestern. And actually, Northwestern favored by, you've got to be kidding me. Northwestern favored by 15.5. Or Oregon favored by 15.5. Northwestern 0-2 to start the year. Oregon 2-0 and number 2 in the country. Give me Oregon to comfortably win on the road. Danny?
Oregon, you better bring the duck to the lake. That giant inflatable duck, and just park it right next to the stadium. I want to see that.
He's got to see the game.
Bad. But give me Oregon to win this game comfortably.
Florida State, SMU, FSU favored by 3.5 on the road in Dallas. Give me Florida State to rebound after their loss to Georgia.
Yeah, this game is going to be fun. It's going to be a big-time game. But for me, give me SMU in an upset. The Mustangs, they can sometimes fire off hot. So give me SMU.
San Jose State, after their loss, they fall to 25. They take on Air Force in San Jose. Spartans favored by 6.5. This was a game they won last year against an unbeaten Air Force. Give me San Jose State to do it again this year. Danny?
Yep, last week this was one of our games of the week. I remember that. As both teams were undefeated. Not the same situation here, but these two teams, they do have a lot to show. They do have a lot of contend, especially in the Mountain West. And give me San Jose State to bounce right back.
Northwest Championship, a rivalry that means more than ever in the current landscape of college football IRL. 2KU, though, not necessarily as so, since the Pac-12 is still a thing in its more recognizable form. But, however, Washington State, Oregon State, no love lost, though. No hate lost. Oregon State favored by 4.5 at home. They've had a great start to the season. Do they get their first conference win against Wazoo? I think so. I like the Beavers. And Oregon State, with their confident wins against Idaho last week and the week before against BYU, I think Oregon State makes a true case for themselves in the Pac-12. Danny?
Yeah, this game is, of course, going to be big in the Pac-12 for both of your respective programs. I'm going to take Oregon State to win this game close, though don't be surprised if Washington State keeps it close.
All right, we wrap with our 2KU game of the week here. I thought they were taking a knee. That'd be hilarious. Taking a knee on 4th down. They're going to scoop it. And he can probably return it here.
Can they?
Yeah.
Can they? Yes.
Absolutely. He probably could have cut the field if he wanted to. But as I was saying, the 2KU game of the week, our only ranked matchup against another ranked team, and it's a top 10 matchup in Stillwater. The number 5 Alabama Crimson Tide, fresh off their huge win against Ohio State. They head to Stillwater to take on Oklahoma State. Is there a potential new big team? Remember, Oklahoma State's been a top 5 staple pretty much since 2022. They have not left the top spots of the Big 12. They won several BCS bowls. They have still yet to win a Big 12 championship since we started this. OK State. This was a team who struggled against Tulsa this week. It was a closer game than you would have expected. They did get the win, though. Meanwhile, Alabama just got a win against top 3 team. Bama favored by 2.5 on the road. I think Boone Pickens is a very tough place to play, so that line does make sense. But give me Alabama to win this game. Danny?
Yeah, this game is, of course, big Alabama, but that big win against Ohio State. Oklahoma State almost with that upset loss to Tulsa. It's pretty much a big-time matchup for both these programs. One of the teams directories of both of them. It's going to be big. It's going to be noon. It's definitely going to be a kickoff. And I think the Pals will be clapping in the stadium. So give me Oklahoma State.
All right. And with that ends our regularly scheduled 2KU. The game still has 6 minutes, and we might be here forever. But maybe we just call it here and sim to the end and see what the final score is.
All right. I can't do that just yet. So.
How about 17 sacks?
Wow, why can't you let Super Sim?
Are we locked in this? Are we trapped?
No, there's usually...
There it is.
There you go. Super Sim, jump ahead. End of game.
Okay, we did not get to 200, but 152-0 is not unsubstantial. 50 points in the first quarter. Ah! That's a scary face.
Oh, it's a good piece.
Sleep tight, everyone. Don't let the bed bugs bite. I want to see those stats before we go on our way. 16 first downs to 2. That's actually feels like a normal stat in terms of 16 first downs. There just wasn't enough first downs to really justify it. Total offense 398. Again, not that much because they had no field to gain. They had 20 rushes and 11 touchdowns. They threw the ball a total of 3 times.
Negative 1.3 yards per play. Let's go.
18 failed third down conversions. Yeah, only 87 passing yards. Punt return yards, 132.
Wait, 1 interception?
They did throw a pick. That's right. They only had possession for 8 minutes. I need to see the player stats. I need to see the returns. How many return touchdowns were there?
Kick returns.
There were a couple kick return. Yeah, 2 kick return touchdowns.
And punt returns.
1, 2, 3, 4 punt return touchdowns.
Special teams put into work.
6 special teams touchdowns. 10. 10 rushing touchdowns.
10 touchdowns, 18 attempts.
11 counting the other running back.
That's pretty funny. Scoring, safety, touch.
How many safeties did we have? Unbelievable stat line here. Does it show safeties? I think we have to scroll all the way to the end, maybe. Yeah, safety. 4 safeties for one guy. 6 safeties total.
My God. This is...
And I feel like it would have been even worse if we had sat through the end, but we do have to call it at some point. That's going to be it for us tonight. Thank you all so much for watching this, admittedly a little disjointed episode, but special occasion. Listen, Touchdown Jesus showed up enough times, so you get something like this. But that'll do it. Thank you all so much for watching, and so long from the 2KU.